2011 Ford Fiesta. Gonna replace the headlamp bulbs. It's really pretty simple. It's slightly different than the other model years, so that's the main reason I'm making this video. If you have a 2011, you have to buy a different bulb for your low beam than if you had like a 2012 or newer. Okay, notice that this bulb is an H11B. Now the more common bulb would be H11 without the letter B. And the difference is this connector, the electrical connector with the two prongs. I'll show it to you with a bare bulb here. Okay, this is my old bulb, and as you can see, you have two electrical prongs that are just sticking out in the open. Now on the H11 model, that's covered with a plastic sleeve, and it's designed to plug straight in like that. This one is designed to rotate like a little bayonet, and it rotates those prongs into a lock. So you have to have the correct bulb, but if you have a 2011, it has to be a H11B. You can't use the H11. And this is for low beams. Okay, so for disassembly, it's pretty basic. We got our two screws or bolts up here at the bottom part, a third one way up at the top of the headlight housing. Then we've got these snap things. All they are is just like a little plastic screw with no threads. They just push down in and just pry them up. So we'll see if we can pry this up. It's a little odd with this stuff in my way. As you can see, you can get a flathead screwdriver under it, and it gradually works its way up, and we'll get it up there within a few minutes. Okay, I know the angle's a little odd here. This part here, you can actually turn it like a quarter of a turn here, and it loosened up, and it'll come right out. There you go. So put it back in. You have to get pressed in, then you have to turn it back that quarter of a turn to the right to seat the electrical connectors. Now once the bulb's back in and secured, turned in tight, just have this little rubber boot, little protective boot to keep the water and stuff out. It slides in here. You can see part of it goes inside and the other part goes on the outside, so it's going like that. You want to make sure it's sealed really good so that it keeps all the junk out. And then you have the other one over here for your high beam, which this one here can take a 9005 bulb. I think it's the same common bulb, but I'm not swearing to it yet. Now when you go to reassemble this after I've got the bulb in, I'm on the driver's side, you've got a little metal clip here that just slides right on. I was able to slide it off by just sticking a little flathead screwdriver in and popping it outwards. And then we have this other electrical connector, which was going to this other bulb up here. Slide her back on, and I've got another one, kind of in my case it's light brown. I gotta put it back on. And this little tab here, locking tab, slipped out of there too, so I gotta figure out how to get that in. It goes in somehow on there, and see if we can get that. Now as you can see, this headlight, the mounting part, the cover, has a tab sticking out here, and you have to make sure that it goes underneath your fender part when you reinsert it. So you have to kind of go in front and down, and this slides in. And it's a little tricky, but we'll get it in there. The windshield washer's in the way too, so you just have to get it just right. So I managed to get this pushed back in. I had to go with the front part here in, had to go underneath first. You have to get these two tabs that are under here first, and the same thing happens when you're taking it out. And then you slide it under, it goes under the grill part here. And then on the top, looks like we can see everything. You got one bolt up here at the very top by the hood. You go way down near the bottom, and here by your little catch here that your arm that holds the hood up locks into, you've got a bolt here, another bolt here. Some of the years only have two. They have one down here and one up at the top. And then they all have a little push pin snap that they call, that holds the grill part on. So first I'm going to do the little push pin deal here. Okay, so here's for the push pin. You just got to make sure your hole lines up. I had to pry this out with a flathead screwdriver. It was a little bit ornery coming up. I didn't want to break it. It took a few minutes. I just kept prying under each side of this little snap and gently lifted it up. I didn't force it so I didn't break the thing off, and it eventually came up. It was just kind of slow but sure. So then you have your 3 bolts. Now each of them has, you have a choice. You can use a flat blade screwdriver like I used, or it's got a socket piece in there which is for a Torx type screwdriver. It doesn't fit a Phillips head, so I just used a flathead. So we'll get them in here by hand first. So the 2 at the bottom are just started in. They're not tight yet, obviously. And I go up here to the top, and we've got the other one. We'll get it started. Obviously make sure that you can get all 3 bolts in and finger tight before you go tightening any of them, or you'll just get in a bind. I'll just take the old trusty flathead screwdriver, gently tighten them up. I'm just barely getting them snug. Just kind of work your way back and forth. Obviously don't get anything in a bind. And you're dealing with plastic and stuff. You don't have to crank these down real tight. Just get it so it's reasonably snug and you'll be fine. Okay, getting this back in is a little bit of a trick. I had to kind of, get the tabs under here, of course. And then you have to slide this in to this underneath here and make sure you don't actually go in too deep. And then up here at the top, there's a tab too. You have your bolt, but there's also a tab. There's a little hole here, a little square hole. Now all I gotta do is put my bolts back in and my tab back in like on the driver's side. And I suppose it helps to check the light before I put it all back together. We'll see if that works. Now before you put everything back together, I'd recommend that you check everything. Check your high beams, low beams, and turn signals, because if you accidentally unplugged something and didn't plug it back in, you got to take it all back apart. Yay. And as long as I have the lid open, check the oil, antifreeze, windshield washer, brake fluid, make sure you get fluids.